Okay, so it's a joint work with Professor Taillard from University of Reims, Champagne-Ardenne. So it's interdisciplinary work that we are starting to work on. You know, where we're going to apply implants, information technology implants in the human body. So interdisciplinarity between medical aspects and information technology. I just go to the next slide to see what we intend to do. Okay, so we have the human body. Okay, from medical science, there are lots of knowledge about the human body. And what is happening is that there are more and more prosthetics that are inserted into the body, maybe also some implants, maybe some nanobots. And basically, if we think of having a chip that would improve or increase the human brain, so that would be implanted into the brain. So here I've shown one in the brain. So, for example, there's one company from Elon Musk which is working on this kind of chips that could extend the human mind and connect it maybe to more power in order to fight, according to him, artificial intelligence. So another other implants that are that would be possible that we call organ general peer. General means that it's a major peer in the system. The system is composed of different peers that we call it peers in a distributed systems. So these peers are able to compute, store, and send messages between other peers. And all of them would be in the human body. So the idea is that we have major peers in most important organs. So, for example, the heart, the brain, as we saw, the stomach, kidney. We could have also intestine. And then after we have these major peers that are connected to major parts in the human body. Then we have also maybe smaller peers which are moving into the body, maybe delivering specific drugs into specific parts of the body, like they are working on nanobots that would release cancer cure in specific parts. So, of course, after then you have many more of them. And the problem in this system, in this distributed system, is that they have limited capacities. They might have difficulties to communicate together, and they must also be safe from a medical point of view. So it's much different than a number of devices that you would wear with wearable computing. So they are inside the body, and so they have limited capabilities. So the main question in this work is that we have all these different peers in the human body. The human body has a state. Is it in good health or bad health? And then they must work together to know actually the human state of the human body. And this is difficult because some of them, as I said, could be disconnected. They could some messages could be lost. There are different types of communications that we can think about between these peers. But if we abstract it, anyways, some messages can always be lost. They are not always connected between them. They are distributed. So it's a problem because some information may be lost. Also, you could have viruses, as we have seen, like coronavirus actually impacts many parts in the human body. These parts may become maybe may have issues and may not work as expected. Maybe it could be also due to aging, and maybe also bugs, because these systems might have bugs as well. Of course, from a safety point of view, it's not good, but software and any technical systems might have bugs as well. So it means that there are lots of different types of issues that can happen, and in distributed systems, it's called like Byzantine generals problem, meaning that different types of issues can happen, and the generals can fail in different manners. So the main peers in the main organs of the human body could fail due to bugs, viruses, and other issues. We assume, as I said, that the general peers, they can compute, they can store and send messages, even if they may be lost. But it's a difficult problem because, as you understand, and also if you look more into Byzantine general problem, after, if you are not from information technology, messages could be lost. There are many things that can go wrong. And so how we try to solve this issue is by using blockchains, which is a specific distributed system that is able to reach consensus in spite of many issues that can happen in the distributed system. So here I've summarized what is a blockchain. It's kind of as I said, as the peers can store information, they could store this information as inside blocks. These are blocks of information in a blockchain, so they form a chain of blocks of information. And why? We need a chain of blocks. It's because then we can be sure that of the sequence of the states. So with a blockchain, we are sure that the previous state was this one because it's via some security features. It's signed and stored in a specific block, which has a number, and the next blocks, the next block has a link to the previous block. So we are sure also of the sequence of the different states in the distributed system. So here it will be also very good because we would also be sure of the human body state in the human body, in the human distributed system body. Because you have different peers, so the issue is that how can we reach consensus on which block, which kind of next information should be put in the block? There are different types of blockchains. Some use miners, difficult computing problems to be solved, or others use validators because they have been chosen as general peers, and for example, in a round-robin style of way, each time there is a new block to be validated, the system or the algorithm ensures that one general peer or another has a right to validate, and then next time it's another one. So the question is that how do we reach consensus? And so to decide who is the miner and validator of the next block, of the next information. There are different types of blockchain consensus. And so when was the first blockchain created? Actually, it was linked to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is distributed systems where people exchange money, and so the blocks, they contain money transactions. And in Bitcoin, the first blockchain, they use what we call a proof of work. So in order to be able to validate, to be the miner who is going to mine and to insert the next information, a computing problem must be solved. So it requires a lot of computing power and electricity consumption. So such a blockchain based on a proof of work consensus in a human body, as I said, with limited peers, limited storage and so on, that would not be possible. But I underline it because the author who is anonymous, we don't really know who is Satoshi Nakamoto, but the one who compiled, these different building blocks from previous research, as I said, Byzantine general problems description, signatures, proof of work. This Satoshi Nakamoto wrote a paper in 2008 and was the first one to have a solution to reach this kind of consensus for blockchain. Actually, here you can go to this site if you want to know more. What is a blockchain and what we have in a blockchain. Just I go here. So, for example, here is you have blocks. Block number 1, number 2, number 3, and the data, the health state of the body, will be inserted in this part. And depending on the consensus, so here we have more like a proof of work consensus. So you see, you have also an identifier of the blocks. Here you see you have this block 1 would have the hash, the identifier starting with 001578. So you see here we see in block 2 a link to the previous block, and block 2 would have 12FA. And here you see there is also a link. So each block is linked together, so it forms a chain of blocks. Block 3 is linked to block 2, and block 2 is linked to block 1. But for us, I mean, we cannot really use this kind of mining because we said we have a small computing power and storage. So what we plan to do is to use what we call the BFT consensus algorithms based on the work from Lamport and also after an implementation by Crestro and Likov. And this one is where actually we have to choose a number of generals in the system. And these generals, then after, depending on their number, the system can still work, even if a number of generals don't work or have been attacked or have failed. So basically, in this kind of system, we have already chosen. So who are the generals? So we said that we would choose the augmented organs that are the most important ones in the human body. And these would be the generals, and still they will reach consensus between them, exchange messages to be able to know the human state, the human body state. And most of the time, I mean, it could still work, even if we have more than 2/3 of the generals, like the heart or the brain, which are still working. We are sure based on the algorithms that we are guaranteed that it will still work. So even if, for example, the brain would fail, the other organs will still be able to maybe reach at least a consensus on the human body state. So here is more like the formula. So basically, when you have F failing, if you have a set of generals G, F is the maximum number of generals that can be faulty or fail. And so in our system, then we will need to have a number of augmented organs in order to to still work even if some generals fail, according to this formula. Of course, we could try to use improved BFT-related solutions, such as hot stuff. They could also be considered, and they are improved, so maybe we can even improve and still work even if if more generals are faulty. Okay, so that was our proposal for the poster style of contribution, and we are open now for your questions.
Thank you a lot for your nice presentation, Jean-Marc. Do we have any question on the chat room? Let me see. I don't think we have any right now. So I was wondering, but maybe it's a little bit out of the scope of your poster. But did you think about user acceptance of putting some sensor on the body?
Yeah, also
User?
the ethical aspects of it in this poster has not been taken into account. But myself, I work a lot on trust in technologies, and we. Of course, I mean, we have already carried out some trust surveys in this kind of systems. At the moment, there is a low adoption, but the point is that if you have augmented organs like pacemaker or maybe later more devices that actually don't really augment, but maybe cure or improve the life of the person, because there is a disease or there is a failing device. At some stage, I think, anyway, a pacemaker might become more intelligent, and then might even work better by communicating with other parts and other devices in the human body. So anyway, sometimes, I mean, in order to retrieve some capabilities, the people have to have such implants or such devices in the human body. And in this case, if they don't have them, they don't live well. So in this case, I mean, it's only improving. It will help, because what happens is that our contribution helps to be more secure and avoid failures by distributing the knowledge between other parts in the human body. So in this case, I think it's anyway they would not have no choice. I mean, it would even improve the security of pacemakers and other things, other implants and prosthetics. So in this case, I mean, there's no question of trust. The other ones, I mean, yes, I mean, at the moment, a few people are open to have their brain augmented, but you see that there are some companies working on that, and still a percentage of the human population is interested and open to that. But of course, it's a reason here we are working also with Reda, who is more from a medical hospital, a research hospital. That's reason I really work in an interdisciplinary style, and of course, I take a lot into account the medical feedback on this aspect. That's one of the reasons also that in Augmented Human international conferences that we have people from both in information technology and medical aspects and other interdisciplinary aspects. We have also in the community some people specialized in ethics, and then they help us to make sure these technologies are not so wrong.
Thank you for the precision.
Sandra, I have a quick comment. Do I still
Yeah.
a few seconds? Okay. Thanks so much. This is a really futuristic and a great talk. I would contribute to that in terms of, like, from my field, from rehabilitation sciences. I think the uptake would be faster in the physical medicine and rehabilitations, we have less invasive technologies. Sometimes if we think about the amputees, we are replacing a leg, or we are replacing a limb, so a hand or a leg. And maybe we are using prosthetics. So if we are embedding prosthetics with sensors, then we can collect data faster than if we are changing the organs, like cardiac pacemaker, or any chips that you want to include in the body. So my comments is that probably the uptake would be faster in medical medicine and rehabilitations. This is my comment.
Yes, of course. I mean, external prosthetics would be part of these distributed systems, and from my understanding is that lots of them are also connected to the brain, and sometimes because the brain gives instructions on moving some parts sometimes. So yes, that would be of course part of it.
Yeah, that was an excellent example of how we should work together. Engineers, computer science people, and people from rehab sciences and the health sciences in general. So.
Yeah, and this is important. Security actually of pacemakers and first generation or second generation and so on. My work is linked to trust and security, and lots of them, they have not taken into account attacks. And there have been some hackers who have already been able to, I mean, it would be bad, but sometimes we don't know why, but they just attack the systems, and some people could die because, for example, they would make the pacemaker not working due to maybe electrical signal sent in a wrong way. So here is really a contribution to improve also security of these systems that are prosthetics, external or internal, and security must be taken into account because you have bad guys. We don't know why, but they could try to attack the system, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. We do have another comment from Colin in the chat, but again, I think we are now kind of late from the track, so we will move to the next presentation and the last one of this session. I thank you again, Jean-Marc, and maybe if you want to discuss a little bit more, you can move forward to the channel on Zoom and discuss with Colin directly.
Okay, thanks. Yes, I can answer questions later, and thanks for the moderation. Thank you.
Thank you.